How great is ball? From Corvallis, Oregon, I'm Yogi Roth, the host of the Yogi Roth Show podcast. And the theme this year is college football. How great is ball? You know what I'm about. You know what this podcast is about. And throughout training camp, we've been able to go to all 12 training camps and have unique conversations with coaches, student athletes. Some of my colleagues at the Pac-12 networks have dropped in. And today, excited to partner up with Sirius XM College Sports and bring you a conversation with head coach Jonathan Smith from his office in Corvallis. Now, I think when you think about Oregon State, to me, a few things come to mind, right? You think about the passing offenses, the quarterback acumen that Mike Riley brought to that program, and now you think about Jonathan Smith, one of those quarterbacks, the former walk-on under Mike Riley, who balled out in the Fiesta Bowl. I can remember going to that stadium when I was at Pitt. I was a freshman. They were playing in that stadium. We were playing in the Insight.com Bowl, and I literally jumped the fence. The night before our game, I kind of snuck out of the hotel. Don't tell Coach Harris. I don't want to get in trouble now, but 15, 20 years later. But I snuck out of the hotel, and I jumped the fence to look at what the Fiesta Bowl looked like. And I can remember looking on that field, saw Notre Dame's logo, saw Oregon State's logo, and I was like, this is big time. I want to play in a game like this. And I didn't know Jonathan then, but obviously knew what he did in the subsequent game, and he balled out. You know, I think he threw for 3-something, 3 tugs, and they beat the brakes off of Notre Dame. And, the lore of Jonathan Smith was set in stone. And now he's returned. This is his second year as the head coach at Oregon State. And I love everything's about. I love how he's building this program in a unique way, building the roster in a unique way. And he's doing it his way. And we had a chance to sit down prior to one of his staff meetings and talk about how he's building it. And it was such a fun conversation, before we started recording, after we started recording, and, of course, while we were, that I think you'll lean in, and I think you'll be able to get some insight into what it's like to be a head coach, and a young head coach at that, and somebody who's had some great mentorship along the way. I can remember being with Jonathan when we were working summer camps at USC under Coach Carroll. We were both young guys back in the day, and you could just tell there was something special about him. So I think you'll dig this conversation. I also think that you'll dig the partner on this podcast, the Yogi Roth Show, Kona Red Coffee. Check them out at konared.com. They source some of the rarest, most sought-after coffee in the world. It comes right from the volcanic mountain slopes of Hawaii, and I love this brand. I love this coffee. I start every single day with Kona Red Coffee, and they have it all, really. They got premium coffee beans, cold brew coffee. They have these little cans that my wife and I love. We kick off every one of our days like that, and a lot of players actually in the NFL, like Sam Darnold, for instance, are drinking this in their meeting rooms, kind of getting themselves going, not only to stay up in meetings, but also to pre-performance, to have somewhat of a performance drink, which is pretty interesting in the coffee world. They even have a juice called the Hawaiian Cascara juice. So check that out, konared.com, or check them out at Vaughn's, Albertsons, Pavilions, Ralph's, Bristol Farms, Sprouts, and many more. Kona Red Coffee, proud partner of the Yogi Roth Show. All right, I want to get to this conversation with Jonathan Smith. I think it's going to light you up. I think it's going to offer you some insight into the coaching world and how you build a program that's been down a little bit but has great history and has great pedigree, and I think can get back to that. So I'm getting out of the way. Here's Jonathan Smith, head coach of the Oregon State Beavers.
Check 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2, 3. Indeed. Here at Oregon State with Jonathan Smith. I'm Yogi Roth, the How Great Is Ball training camp tour, Sirius XM College. You can listen to my podcast. It's a little bit of everywhere, and we've been everywhere. And finally, looking at beautiful Reser Stadium. But before we talk about what's going to happen at Reser Stadium, we just spent about 40 minutes reminiscing. I would love to hear this from you, and I'll give you my rendition. Like, when do you remember meeting? And I'll tell you when I remember you and I finally
connected.
I
remember meeting at summer camp, USC down there. I was coming down with the Idaho staff to work camp. That's what I remember.
Yeah, me too. And I always remember about it. You were like, because it was like Nick Holt. It was like big personalities would come down, and Nick came off of Pete's staff, right? Yep. And Pete, as we both knew, Coach Carroll, crazy juice, crazy energy. He replicated that.
Yep.
But you and I were like, we had good juice, but we weren't like out of control. So I always remember connecting with you, like the two younger coaches, like, hey man, so you could, and I knew you from playing, obviously, back in the day.
I remember that exactly because it was like Ed Ogeron, and then James Craig was on the Idaho staff, coaching the line now, and that they would have the hype Johnny Nansen, who's over at SC now. But then I was a little bit calmer, and then catching up with you fit me a little bit better.
Do you remember when they take the shirts off in special teams?
Wartime. Yep, I remember that. Wartime, take it outside, and then the shirts would start coming off.
Yeah, so just to tell the story for listeners, because they're kind of curious, I bet there's like an Ed Orgeron YouTube video of him doing it at one of the stops he'd be at. But we'd go in there, and we do this in summer camp, where you just want to create energy and create juice. And we were doing it on our staffs for real. We walk in, and we would say, we start the special teams meeting. I think, if my memory serves me right, please correct me. It'd be a special teams meeting, and it would be something along the lines of, hey, what's the first thing you do when you're in a street fight?
Yeah.
And guys would talk like, the rookies would never know, or the freshmen, and kids in summer camp would never know. They'd be like, you take your shirt off. Yeah. And the coaches would take their shirt off.
Yep. That's how it played out. Exactly right. I want to say it started, who was the running back coach? He's been a long time.
Todd McNair
was the running back coach. And
Kennedy Palomalu, actually. Maybe
that's
even
who
the guy
I'm
who
thinking
started.
of.
Yeah.
Todd, I remember Todd, too, working at the camps, but I thought it was Kennedy.
I think you're right. Yeah, because it was before me, and then the chant would start, wartime, take it outside, wartime. And I remember my first time when I was on SC, my first day, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, this is crazy.
Okay, you fast forward a couple. I went back. USC's playing Texas, one of the epic games of all-time college football. I went to the hotel because I was with Nick, and they pretty much did the same thing in the special teams meeting. They piled all the chairs together in the room.
That was awesome.
They're about to go play the biggest game, and we're doing it 2 hours before kickoff.
So Pete had this thing where he loved, I think it's called longboarding, and it's like ancient Native American tradition where whenever they wanted, to say, do a rain dance or try to call something from the sky, they would create a campfire, and then they would chant about it, and they would dance around the campfire. And his whole thing was if you can get everybody connected, and the line he would always say is you can be one heartbeat, or as Eddie O would be one heartbeat, right? Mm-hmm. If you could be one heartbeat, then anything was possible. So we started doing it in these pregame meetings. You do it now with your team. You meet at the hotel, you do special teams, who's the starters. Mm-hmm. And we would throw all the chairs in the middle like it was a campfire. And guys would be rubbing their hands, or you remember that day, around it like a campfire, and it would start, whatever chant was happening, and we'd take it to the bus.
Because then the rub the hands chant, and then we begin to call people out to do more or less dance around the...
Yeah, that's right.
Around the chairs of the campfire there. It was crazy.
Things just kind of take on a mind of its own. All right, so let's talk about your program. We can reminisce all day long. I'm curious, team meetings, because I get to sit in on a couple of them as I go around the country, and I love the beginning of them, the freedom sometimes that teams have. Guys are singing or dancing. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, they're cultivating community. But I always wondered, how do you even get to the place where your team gets to know each other, and you as the head coach gives them some freedoms early on in the meeting? So here in your second year, I'm curious, what's the dynamic of a team meeting now for you, and where is this team in terms of their personality?
Oh, I think everyone's more comfortable just because we know each other so much more, and they'll be conversating a ton. Sometimes you got to bring them down to get the meeting started. Or we'll be flashing highlights of old things or new things, topics, and then that'll start the meeting over your conversating or whatever we're just watching as guys filed in. I love the team meetings, especially the ball part. Because once we get into it, oftentimes I'm showing 8 to 10 clips of practice and either pointing out the good, bad, or the other. And I know in our second year we're more comfortable because we can get some laughs at a guy making a mistake. First year, everyone's like, oh, they were a little nervous about it. So I think we're in a better place second year. Just guys knowing each other, working together, and we're having a bunch of fun doing it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So many eyeballs are on college football. You guys are going to have a great game coming up here, Oklahoma State. It's going to be awesome to kick the thing off. But take us inside the joy of coaching. Even amid, you didn't get the wins you wanted a year ago, but it's the build that I think gets lost sometimes from outsiders' perspectives. I'm curious why that's fun and what part of it do you gain the most joy from?
Right. I get a bunch of joy in coaching. I think I get a ton of joy when I see guys truly progress and improve. And I think when they see themselves improving and you're pointing it out to them, they build some self-esteem. They just feel better about themselves, that they've accomplished something or they're growing and improving. I think, too, we can impact these guys off the field as well. Some of the deeper relationships from player to coach I've really enjoyed, not just now, but really my whole time coaching, of making an impact or sharing conversations, passing some wisdom. And it's really a two-way street. I mean, you're learning from these kids too, not just us trying to give it to them. I get a ton of joy out of that. I enjoy our staff too, and then watching our staff kind of work together, put the plan together, and then go implement it to our kids. And so that's a group effort. That's why I love football, how good this team game, it's the ultimate team game. Yeah. And we get to live it day to day.
Man, I just had this flashback. I'm in your office and I'm looking at some of the pictures. And I think I've told you this story before, but your final year playing here was my first year playing at Pitt. We played in the Inside.com Bowl. You played in the Fiesta Bowl. Mm-hmm. And I remember jumping the fence at the Fiesta Bowl I had to look at the field. It was the night before the game because our game was somewhere around that time. And I was still in Phoenix. And I saw the logo, right? You saw the end zone painted. Yeah. Then, of course, watched you ball out in that game. But I say that on the heels of, like, everybody has pride in what they do. But can you describe what it's like to come back and really coach here? And now you're in it. Like, it's not opening press conference anymore and great videos online. Yeah,
it does. I think it adds meaning to it just because I'm able to do it here where I got some history and we had some success as a player. And I say success, like, yeah, we had the year we won the Fiesta Bowl, but also we built something. For a couple of years we weren't that good and then finally got over the hump of a bowl game, and then next year the Fiesta Bowl. And so I lived through a special time for Oregon State. And then now being able to come back with some familiar faces, the same place, but now it's all new players. We've got some new things around here, and we got the opportunity to build something. And I kind of feel proud that they're allowing me to kind of lead it up.
Yeah. So you just named sixth-year senior now, Jake Luton, the starting quarterback. How have you seen him take over this thing in a way that you had at one point? And how do you make sure that you, as the head coach, have played this position and almost can overshadow him because of how well you played here? How do you give him keys to be really free as a competitor?
Right. I think it's not always easy. I think that you always want to continually communicate to him of, the things he's doing well, the things he needs to improve on. And really just we believe in him that he's got the opportunity to help us score some points and win some games. Just been so impressed with him this year starting in January, having the season we had 2-10, but also he had some injuries he had to overcome again. He comes back with a mindset that he's going to give it one more crack and really play the best he can. Well, he started in January in the weight room. Spring ball, the growth you can see in his plays, understanding the scheme, and it carried through all the way through the summer. We added some competition to the room for him, which I think really helped him. And I think he's playing the best football of his life right now.
I love that. You've added competition, really, the whole team, I feel like. I love talking to you on the Pac-12 networks around signing day, spring ball, of just the creative way that you've built this roster. How have you felt it grow with everybody going down the same path of finding success for the team and then, of course, themselves with the increased competition and some new faces that didn't come in traditionally in college football?
Right. Well, we communicated to the team we needed to create competition. And it's really good if you're a true competitor, if more better talent comes in, it's going to make me better if I'm going to compete against it. And we tried that approach really with every position, especially on defense with some of the things we were able to bring in. And I do think those position groups are better because there's players coming back from last year that we add in some, whether it's transfer player or an older player, there's more depth in the room. And I think it's forcing everybody in the room to improve individually. And it feels that way out at practice.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Okay, so Jamar Jefferson, clearly a record-setting year. The top the top 10 returning rushers statistically in the country come from this conference, him being one of them this coming season. Where do you ask a guy like that to grow? And how does a guy like that deal with, it was an awesome year for him.
It was a great year for him. And what I love about him is he's just so low ego. He's such a team guy. He's not even kind of worried about how many carries he's getting. We did challenge him to take his game to another level in pass protection and really catching the ball out of the backfield because he's just a natural runner who's tough, physical, and loves running the ball. We challenged him in the spring ball, pass pro, and he's improved. He's one of maybe the quiet leader on our team in ways, the way he practices, which is awesome to have one of your best players be your best practice player. And he's making his imprint that way on our team.
That low ego, high output. I always have a quote when I have my document about your program. Curious what was the theme, if you were to describe it around this team? Is it that? Is there something different that you guys are talking about?
I'd love us to be described that way, because I do think we've got a bunch of guys that want to have high output, but the approach we're going, it's not about myself, it's about the team. And so just having that hard working, low ego approach, that this is a team game. But if we're going to have some better output and a better chance of winning games and getting over that hump, we got to make it competitive. We talk about that to start a camp. And really, you're in camp, you're competing, offense versus defense, let's face it. But you're also competing amongst your position group, right? You want to move up the depth chart. And you're competing against yourself to like challenge yourself each day to improve. And so I thought our camp was competitive. And I think coming out of the other end of it, about to start a season, I think we're going to be a pretty competitive group down in and down out.
Isaiah Hodgins. Heard glowing reports about this young man in training camp. Where's he taking his game?
I think he had an awesome camp. One of the best players. Just looking at the camp itself and the work ethic, he's a little bit faster, which is another great example for us of one of our better players working that hard. I think he's more elusive. He's always been a good route runner, but I think he's more sudden now. And he's just been so consistent. The ball's in his vicinity. He's coming down with it. And I love that he's a team player, too. He's on the blocking end. He's going, digging out the safety. And so I think he's set himself up to have a great year.
You get asked, I'm sure, a ton about the defense. Regardless of statistics, you guys are going to clearly make a jump statistically. What have you noticed intangibly about this group in the second year under Tim Tibesar?
Yeah, I think our effort is up. I think our want to run to the ball is up. And again, it goes back to this competition part. I think we've been better at trying to take the ball away. That's as our stats were not even close to what we want. That stat itself was not close. Not the yardage, it's the lack of turnover. We got to create some turnovers, and that's shown up more in fall camp. I know there's a real belief in what we're doing defensively amongst our players and our coaches in the scheme. We've adjusted that a little bit this fall. And so I think we've made some tweaks, and these guys are playing really hard and believing in what we're doing. And I'm just anxious to kind of get started here for a real game to show it.
Yeah, Okie State coming into Reser Stadium. Can't wait to see the mullet of Coach Gundy. Like, how does that, when you guys have a conversation in midfield, do you think you'll bring that up?
I will not. No, I'm impressed with it though. He just lasted.
Can't you be?
For a guy to do that, and he's done a great job at that program for a long time, and they're always really good with explosive players on offense, especially. I actually have met him briefly. We were at a bowl game, 4 or 5 years ago playing him. But we're anxious to, I'm anxious to see it in person, the mullet.
A life of its own. Last thing, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. I can remember last year calling a couple games here. One of them your dad said it on the production meeting. Curious, when you talk to him about where this program's going, and he watches you guys and evaluates you, and clearly he's been around you for a long time. He told me the story of how you even got up here when he was here. What's he say?
Oh, he's just been supportive and proud. He's excited. He grew up in Oregon, born in Portland. He actually grew up in Eugene. He went to high school there. And so I think it's a uniqueness and great thing for him, too, for me to be here. And now he's traveling up here a bunch and seeing the work that's been put in. I think he's pretty proud of knowing how we're going about it and anxious to see it continue to climb.
I love it. Well, it'll definitely be climbing. I can't wait to be here to continue to watch it. And from 15 years ago at the USC Rising Stars camp.
That's what it was, yep.
And neither one of us were the ones. They were called them the bushwhackers who took their shirts off and created the chants. We were just watching from afar to now, man. It's really cool to watch your success.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right, this is Jonathan Smith, the How Great Is Ball training camp tour from Oregon State. Love that conversation with Jonathan. I think he always gets you to think about how you are as a leader. If you were that young, if you were a second-year head coach, how would you do it? What are you doing in the worlds that you're in, let alone how are you perceiving and receiving what's going on at Oregon State? I love it. And I think he's the only guy for this job at this time of where the program was and I think where the program is going. So love my time there. I always loved that community. Had a chance to actually host an event with Oregon State right after our conversation, and you could feel Beaver Nation. And for me personally, I love going to campuses like that because that's probably where, and it's kind of where I would have played, a chip on the shoulder type school. And they have that. And I love some sneaky elements to them. Jake Luton as the quarterback, I watched him a little bit on film, and dude was dealing. He looked better than a lot of quarterbacks I've seen in training camp, and I think he throws it better than a lot of guys around the country. This offense moved the ball last year. I think they're going to do it again, and obviously they'll run the football well with Jamar Jefferson, one of the top returning rushers in the country, let alone Artavis Pierce coming back. Isaiah Hodgins, he's got all conference written all over him at wide receiver. They've creatively built this roster with some transfers, not only on the offensive side, but defensively, linebacker, defensive line, junior college Jordan Whitley, remember that name, a defensive tackle. I think he's got a potential, he got a really high ceiling to be an all-conference player. So I like Oregon State. Not an easy schedule. They kick it off on a Friday night against Oklahoma State at home, and I think Research Stadium is going to be rocking. Okay, also what is rocking is my newsletter. I think you're going to really dig it if you love college football. And if you're listening to this, you probably love ball. So go to yogiroth.com and subscribe to the How Great is Ball newsletter, where every Friday I'm going to be dropping insights into your inbox around college football. Stories that inspire, stories that provoke, obviously different podcast episodes on my show and other shows that I'll be partaking in or listening as the week goes on and prepare. And I want to hear from you too. Who do you want to hear from? What do you want to read about? Let me know. Just hit me up on social at Yogi Roth and try to make this extremely conversational as the season gets going, because we got 14 weeks and we've already hit the gas with week 0. We're not slowing down any time soon. So hope you enjoyed the day. Hope you enjoyed training camp. This is my final stop. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to hang out with my family. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to rest for about 6 hours. And then it's on, and college football is fully rolling, full tilt. All right, have a great year, and I'll be talking to you every single week. Peace.